Little blue bags. Pops's dad liked his pint, and sometimes on a summer evening he would drive Pops's mom, sister Denise and Pops in his trusty Morris Minor, definitely an improvement on the Austin 7, into the countryside to one of his favourite pubs. To be one of his favourite pubs it only needed one thing, to sell Bass beer. He was a lifelong supporter of Team Bass, and in return he would always find a warm welcome in any house with the red triangle over the door. If the evening was fine, then the whole family would sit in the beer garden. If it was raining, Pops's mum and dad would disappear inside the pub, his dad with his pint of Bass, his mum with a Mackerson, and then his dad would bring out a bag of crisps and a bottle of Vimto to Denise and Pops in the car. Now inside the bag of crisps, plain of course, was always a small blue bag of salt, which you had to fish out from amongst the crisps, being careful not to rip the bag. Then untwist the blue bag and sprinkle the salt over your crisps, so producing your own do-it-yourself ready salted crisps. Pops would eat the crisps as quickly as possible, in the hope of persuading his little sister to give him some of hers, a tradition that is still very much alive in the Orange family. Now the point of the story, if you were wondering, is this. The bags of salt were introduced not first of all to make the crisps tastier, though that would make a good sermon, but to make the person eating them thirsty. If you were thirsty, you're going to drink more beer. And if you drink more beer, that is going to make Mr. Bass very happy. Clever Mr. Bass. These little stories are Pops's blue bags. He wants to make you thirsty, more thirsty, not for beer or Vimto, but for Jesus. Pops was saved when he was 18. Now he is 70 and he is thirsty for Jesus and he has been for a long time. Writing these stories has made him thirsty to know Jesus, like he's never known him before. There is a verse in the book of Job that talks about the edges of his ways, and that's what these stories are. It's like the sick lady who just managed to reach out and touch the hem of Jesus' coat and was healed. Pops was stretching out as far as he could, and the more he stretched, he knew that God was bigger, greater, and more wonderful than he could ever imagine. At one time in Leamington, Nana and Pops rented a very nice house from some lovely friends. Every evening after tea, Pops would be upstairs in a bedroom praying. Sometimes Nana's friends would visit her, and Nana, as she always did, would make cakes and tea. But then all of a sudden they would hear very loud shouting coming from the bedroom, and her friends would jump and even sometimes spill their tea. "What's that noise?" they would ask Nana. "Oh, it's only Dave praying," Nana would answer. "You don't pray like that," they would say, a little alarmed and a little worried for Nana, but Nana would just say, "Dave does," as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Pops had read about a man in the Bible called Jacob. God had really blessed him. He had 2 beautiful wives, lots of sons and lots of servants, thousands of sheep and cows, but still he wasn't satisfied. He knew there was something more. One night, when he was alone, an angel in the form of a man came and wrestled with him, and as it was getting light, the man said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And the angel said, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he replied. The angel said, "It will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with man and have prevailed." And in that struggling, God had changed Jacob. Pops felt a little bit like Jacob. He knew God had really blessed him. Although he hadn't got any servants, sheep or cows, and only had one wife, which was more than enough. But somehow he knew there was more. There was God, just God and not Pops. As far as Pops could understand, God was saying to him, "It's either me or you." And that's what all the shouting and praying was about. It was just a little man with a big thirst, praying with a big God, who could satisfy that thirst by flooding that little man with himself, and little Pops would be swept away in the flood. Nana's prayer cake recipe: 50 parts faith, 48 parts desire, 2 parts tears, plus a dash of shouting only if required.